Hola community, welcome to Blender Today Live 100, 200, 300. Blender on iPhone is the title of this video. Is that clickbait? On the chat there was like, is that clickbait? Why is Blender doing clickbait? And if you know me, if you know Blender, you know that we don't do clickbait. Blender doesn't do clickbait. So yes, there is a version of Blender for iPad, which happens to run iPad OS, which is based on iOS. And I don't know if you've been following the news, but Blender, it's a version of Blender is being built for iOS. So, or for iPad OS. So if you go to the code blog, you may have seen the news that there is a Beyond Mouse and Keyboard. Why is it called that way? Well, because it's not about Blender on iPad, Blender on iPhone, Blender on Android, Blender on a Wacom tablet. It's about all of that. It's about Blender on a tablet without this and without one of this. So no keyboard, no mouse. Basically, against everything that Blender has been going for in the last 30 years. Full mouse and keyboard. Actually, when I see people like this using Blender just like with one hand, and no, that's not how you use Blender efficiently. So if you read the blog post, you will see that there are some mockups, some really early prototypes of how it could look. There is so many challenges in regards of the UX, of the user experience, because of this concept that everything in Blender depends on where your mouse is. But if there's no mouse, you know, how do you deal with it? Tablets, how do you work with graphic tablets? You know, like the good old ones, like this one, even with that cable, not even the like Bluetooth, just the good old ones. How does that work? Blender doesn't work great there yet. If you have a tablet, you may know there are some operations that are only for, I don't know, the scroll wheel. And then how do I have a scroll wheel? I don't know. They haven't thought about having a scroll wheel. The Apple Pencil Pro has a touch. I don't know if that's supported, but it has a touch. So maybe that would be the way to go. But yeah, no, that's not what we're talking about in this article. So yeah, it is very early stages, but let's get it out of the way. To the people that were saying that this is a clickbait, I know it's just for fun. We're just having fun here, but let me show you. So this is my, okay, you maybe see way too much there, all the notification that I haven't replied. Okay, so this is, I have Blender here, right? If I can focus on it. All right, and then I will try to do it from here. And that's how fast it opens, actually. Okay, let's try to get rid of that, get rid of Blender here. Let's delete Blender and the cube in there, and let's go back again to show how fast it boots. 1, 2, done. There you go. So now, yeah, this is how it looks. Okay, you can move around, of course. This is the default cube. You can pinch to zoom and it works. So yes, the title of this video is not clickbait. Blender runs on an iPhone because it runs on an iPad and it's basically the same operating system. So this is of course not functional right now. You can't even, well, you can delete the default cube actually just by going to the object menu and delete it. But yeah, there's so many limitations, right? Like shortcuts don't work. Even if you have a keyboard, shortcuts don't work at the moment. Getting a file in there is pretty complex. You have to build Blender yourself. It's not on the Apple Store yet, of course. There is so many limitations. Pre-recorded screens that, come on, pre-recorded screen, Bunny. Tell me, where do you want me to go? And I will go there. Yeah, also, how could I make it pre-recorded and make it go sideways, even with that glitch, and then like gloop. Yeah, anyway, I know it's just trolling at this point. Delete the cube. So object, okay, I can't scroll, so I open the menu there and I can't scroll because I made the UI too big. Also, like preferences, they open in a new window. An iPhone doesn't know about Windows. iPads barely know about Windows now on the more recent versions. So that's another thing we have to work on. Anyway, there was just a fun thing to show that, yeah, it is possible. Actually, with an application template, you could even use Blender as a viewer. And the fact that this happens to work on an iPhone is not that Blender is putting resources on iPhone. It's because it is already running on iOS, so iPadOS. So you get it for free. Actually, if you happen to compile Blender yourself, all it takes to compile it on the iPad or the iPhone is you just literally, like now I just compiled it on the iPhone, so I would just have to take out the cable, plug it in to my iPad mini, in this case the mini 6, even not even the latest and greatest, and it runs, and it compiles for both devices. It's crazy. That's super nice. I hope it is this way and this flexible for Android when it comes. So super nice. Can iOS handle rendering? Yes, it can handle rendering. But of course, I mean, it's still my iPad mini is still a device from like many versions ago, many years ago, 2021, I believe. And also, what you will get when you compile Blender is the debug version. So that's even super slow. Like I tried rendering with cycles, the default cube with cycles on my iPhone. I have the iPhone 16 Pro and Down Max, the regular version, and yeah, it took a while, but this is because it's a debug version. It's not the release one. It's not the one you will get as a final user. So anyway, that's Blender for iPhone. It runs. You've seen it. And let's move into what else is new in Blender today. Well, Blender 4.5 LTS is an LTS, right? It's a long-term release. Although also some non-long-term releases get bug fixes, corrective releases, usually a month after release. In this case, 4.5.1 is already out. You can download it from blender.org because there were some issues, some fixes that had to be done before time, like some really pressing issues regarding crashes that people would have often, as in specific graphics cards, driver combination. So those were fixed and released a week ago, actually, on the 29th of July. So it's been a week already, and so far so good. So it seems to be a good one to start. If you haven't switched to Blender 4.5, this is a good moment to do it. Otherwise, you can wait until maybe 2-3 weeks, to the 19th, I believe. Actually, I don't need to believe, I can see to believe. Let's go to Blender 4.5 LTS, and here there is a message in 4.5.2 is planned for August 19th, 2025. So that's how you can also find out when is the next version of Blender LTS coming out. Okay, time to see what else is new. What else is new? That's it. Conference tickets. There is 54 tickets left before starting. Okay, 54 tickets left. So just saying, if you are thinking of coming to the conference in September next month, it's a good moment to get the last few tickets. Okay, now let's actually see what is new in Blender. Because there is a Geometry Nodes workshop you can read about on the code blog. There is another one coming up for closures and bundles, these new socket types, data types in Blender that you will soon have. This is not out of experimental yet, so not yet. Okay, let's see. What do people say in the chat? Is everything okay? People still don't believe. People think that I'm using a pre-recorded version. Is Blender the new Doom? Wow, that would be amazing. People start porting Blender to fridges and everywhere. Let's see what is new. Okay, so no, this is the old one. The old version. This is the summary of this week. So let's open the preview, Markdown preview. By the way, this list is not available anywhere, so let me copy it for you. And let's see if this is the one. Yeah, this is the one. So I can go to blender.community and make a new post on BlenderToday with the text of today's live stream. So you can have a place where you can ask questions towards the end of the show. So this is the list that I will be going through. Now this is 400 commits in total, although today we're gonna go around 70 changes we will cover on this live stream. Starting with, actually in the, like at the very beginning, there's not much to cover in the first titles. Remember, we go alphabetically, and nothing has been meant like big relevance other than a bunch of cleanups, some build stuff, but so far so good. We start with the Compositor. Mario Pipe. Oh, I've been playing the Mario Kart world, so much fun. Highly recommend. Replace composite node with group output node. Okay, this is kind of big news. It's not big yet, but it will be, because it is part of a rewrite that will make the Compositor basically more portable to other parts of Blender outside of the Compositor. You may be familiar with group nodes from geometry nodes. A geometry node, it can be used as a tool, as a modifier, as a group, a node group. So that's why you need group input, group output. By default, it has a geometry in and out, but inside anything can happen. The same principle applies to the composite. The idea is that you could use compositing nodes to do image operations, to have like an image filter in the image editor and a effect on your strips in the video sequence editor. So basically, instead of having always a render layer in, render layer out, or composite out, this replaced the group output with, the composite output with the group output. So yeah, flexibility. This is a little snippet of the things to come. Next, glare node, Sunbeams, now has a gizmo. So you can control the direction, and there's no other than an image. But yeah, basically you can control the position of the sun position. Wow, with a gizmo. Is this how the gizmo looks, with an X? Let's see. I happen to have a blender right here. Let's try it out. We haven't talked in a while, so let's take the time to do some live demos that can always fail, but I know you will forgive me if they do. And let's search for some beams, and let's maybe add an image or render in this case. So I have this selected, and I don't see the gizmo. So it's a glare, because now we have sunbeam. We have sunbeam twice, and the glare node is the one that has these. Okay, this is confusing. We should hide the other one. Okay, this is the one with the direction, which is not very visible in this case. Why it's not? Oh, the glare is not visible. Anyway, this is the thing that controls it with an X. I guess we already have this widget in other places. Could be like a nice little sun, like the drawing of a sunlight, right? Like this. I don't know. Maybe it was just faster, because we do have some built-in lines and shapes that developers reuse. Okay, let's not get sidetracked so early in the live stream. It's literally the first thing I'm covering. Next, improve fog glow realism, glare realism. Oh, nice. Yeah, it is more subtle, but it is more realistic. Interesting. Physically based glare effects for digital images. It's a paper implemented by Mohammed Gad. It's a breaking change. It cannot be versioned, but it's 5.0, so this goes in. So nice. Let's see. Wow, the glare node is really is glowing. It's a glow up mode. Next, the file output node has a better UI, user interface. The old one, I don't know if you remember, it was so awkward. It was this kind of UI lists that you are already everywhere in Blender, but some decisions were wrong. The plus is usually on the right. The X is usually a minus on the right as well. There is no editing text per se. You just double click on the text, like every list in Blender. Something you learn once. Labels, we don't use labels. Yeah, these kind of things sometimes get not done for a while because it works, right? But I'm glad that it finally happened. I made that task like a year ago or so. Next, asset shelf. Welcome the asset shelf to the Compositor. You can now have compositing assets. Well, you could before, but now there is an asset shelf that you can make your own node groups and just dump them into your to your scene, drag and drop them, or double click probably. Yeah, so cool. Yeah, this like this. Basically, you have a few assets. These are not built in Blender yet. There will be some that we would like to ship with Blender, just so the shelf is not empty. But you can make your own. You just have a node group, right click, make an asset, and you should show up here if it fits the criteria, which is node compositor type node groups. Nice. So yeah, this just adds the asset shelf, by the way. By default, it's hidden, so you're not gonna see it by default. Actually, we just notice, but for those who are very, very into details, may have noticed this tiny little guy over here, this arrow up in the bottom corner. This is the what tells you that there's something there, and you just drag that up, and this is the asset shelf. So if I make this into an asset, I should see it. Mark an asset, and this is making a thumbnail. Yeah, it is. Wow, okay, who made this? First time I see this. Okay. I wasn't familiar with this. I am... Okay, so this is here, so now I can right click and edit as many times as I want. Nice. And this is a group, so you can see it's 5 times, and it's an asset as well. So there are some changes coming, by the way, to this, to the way node groups look and icons, because there are some changes coming, and these might get rearranged a bit for the better, trust me. It's just that there are many things coming up, as in, you see there's a new shape for sockets. Many of the changes that are on geometry nodes are coming up for the compositor as well. So yeah, great things coming. You know what else is great? When more nodes get a similar feature across them. So the extension modes that we've seen in the last episode as well, the ones that allow you to extend the composite by clipping, which is the default, how it used to be, or wrapping, or what else? Extensions, interpolation, etc. These modes that are already in other nodes, they're coming to the rotate node, displacement, map UV, and the corner pin node as well. So welcome these ones by Benjamin Balehartz. So cool. Let's see. Use frame for map value node versioning. This is a work in progress change. You will only see it, I think this is only applying to the map value node, but this concept will be applied with to other places. So what is this? Well, you know, when Blender make changes, updates their nodes, sometimes the old nodes get deprecated. And in that case, most of the time, Blender developers can do some magic under the hood to tell the old Blender or the newer Blender to say, okay, this node no longer exists. Instead, remove it and replace it with this bunch of nodes which do the same thing, or the other way around. And in this case, the nodes will try to be arranged automatically. They don't always look great because they're positioned in between other nodes. You can imagine if you're replacing one node with 5, the UI is not going to look the same. So this tries to fix or work around that by having a frame with a little description of what happened there. In this case, for versioning, map value was removed. I'm not a big fan of this description. It sounds weird, like map value was removed. What map value? What is it? A node? Is it a did I remove it? Did you? What happened? So I would rather have something like telling me what is this? Okay, this is the replacement for the map value node. Maybe that I think might be more clear. What do you think? Although versioning is a very development centric word. I wonder if, as a user, what do you, when you read versioning, what do you think? I think it would be better to say replacement for map value node, or update remove update removed map value node. Next, core. All right, this is in the core of Blender. There is a, oh yeah, so remember the variables that were added a few weeks back, the scene name, camera name, node name? Well, a node name, like a label that you apply to a node, can have characters that the operating systems have as illegal. Or for example, if you have a node that is called hue/saturation, and then you use that variable, that node name variable, to write to a folder, the operating system might think that the slash means it's a folder, right? And then it will make a folder for hue and then another something else inside that is called saturation. So in this case, this will be replaced with a dash. So so it becomes something that you can use as sanitation of IDE structs. Next. Curves. Treat curves as selected when any handle is selected. This makes it so that operators that function on curves will work if only handles are selected. Oh, nice. Yeah, so previously, if you had a handle selected, it wouldn't treat the curve as selected. But sometimes there are some operations, like in Grease Pencil or yeah, node tools, that you need this. So, yay, nice. Okay, let's switch to cycles. There is a bunch of changes this week, actually. One, it's kind of performance, also rendering. So Patrick Mowers from NVIDIA implemented a new way of drawing curves, the shape of curves. You're familiar with the ribbons and with rounded ribbons and with 3D curves. Well, the new type is called linear 3D curves. And it's supposed to be somewhere in between. It's faster than, well, faster than everything, it seems. Yes, but it's especially faster on the newest NVIDIA graphics card. So for the 5 people out there that have NVIDIA 50 something, like the Blackwell GPUs, like a 5090, 50 something, this will give us 6 times speed up on that hardware. So that's a good reason to use it. On an older graphics card, like a 40 series, 4080, 4090, and so on, this will get a 3 times speed up. So yes, that's always something good to use. This is supported in all backends, so Embry, so CPU, Metal, RT, and optics. This special case is much faster on the newer one because basically it's drawing. Ooh, this website is. Okay, let's look at this example. So basically, the 3D curves, they look very similar at a distance, although this does look a bit different, but it renders so much faster. So the example with the 3D curves, which is like the most expensive curves, is 36 seconds on optics on a 4090. It's not even the 5090 actually, and that's supposed to be even faster. So a 4090, still a super expensive graphics card, render this in 36 seconds, but the linear 3D curves in only 10 seconds. Not bad. The problem though, it seems to be when you are really up close. This is the rounded ribbons. Nice. 3D curves, the best ones, like super detailed and smooth. And then you have the new one, linear 3D curves. They are not the prettiest. You can see that there's like lines everywhere, and yeah, not pretty. When you're far away, you don't really care, I think, so that's not a big deal. It's somewhere in between. And yeah, it renders much faster. I wonder if it would be nice to have something like, depends on the distance, it would do 3D curves or linear 3D curves, because this when it's far away and this for close-ups would be best. But yeah, super nice. Thank you, NVIDIA. Thank you, Patrick, for implementing this new render cycles linear curve shape. Okay, next. Add portal depth light path information that... Okay, I looked at this and the description is not super clear, but basically it's a new output in the light path node, and that one is called portal depth, which allows you to have a number, like something you can use to calculate what is how many, like the depth of the portal. So in that case, you can treat, in this case, for example, it's a very specific use case. This is coming from the studio, probably, where they're doing this kind of style. These stroke styles, they're basically cheating these colors to have a flat color per stroke that gets the ray from the faces, basically like a instead of using the whole surface, it gets one point in the center, and it tries to apply that color to the whole stroke. That way, you can have this look that is more like a stroke. Each one has its own color, and yeah, now that can be done. Basically, it's a new option, portal depth. Nice. It's using the Ray Portal BSDF to do this kind of crazy thing. And this is how it looks at the moment. So basically it's a sphere which each face has its own color pointing up, and then the back side. Neat. You probably wouldn't use it if you don't know what I'm talking about. Like if you have used the portal node, maybe that's when you would find that the most useful. Next, I've never noticed that the default material between Blender Eevee and Cycles, it didn't match actually. So this is more a fix than a feature. The specular pass in Cycles and in Eevee was different. Eevee had a bit more of a shine to it, and now they both match. Basically, Eevee, I think it was using the direct BSDF, like the diffuse BSDF, and now they're both using the principal BSDF. Yes, instead of the diffuse BSDF. So super nice. Now Eevee, the default cube, default Suzanne, default everything will match Eevee and Cycles. It's a breaking change, but so are so many in Blender 5. Next, let's see. Getting a bit dark, no? Let's see if I can have more light here. Next, performance improvements. The principal BSDF is now faster. Hey, that's good to hear. That's a pretty popular VSDF we are talking about. So this change by Lucas Stockner makes it so on optics, on CPU, there is still around a 5% in some of the tests, up to 5% in the junk shop, for example. Test, or the monster render is also 3%. And the speed up apparently comes in optics. In this case, up to 10% for the junk shop, up to 9% in the attic, 4% in the monster scene, the spring. So the render splash for Blender 2.8, it's up to 6%. So nice. Always welcome every kind of optimizations, including this one, which gives a, let's see, 1% on CPU and 1.5% on optics. Also for BSDF animation shaders. I will take any percentage. If we get this 1% 100 times, hey. Next, another performance improvement for specific done by Apple on metal devices. So this is only specific to Apple for cycles, and it makes the renders up to 2% faster. Nice. Then one change that it's not visible yet, but it's in Blender now and will be, it's part of an upcoming change, which is the EDDSense support for metals. This is not yet in Blender, it's work in progress, but they added a function, main menu theme, nice name. They added a function that makes it so it supports, so it will support it. It will support film EDDSense for metals. So stepping stone. Next, there's some changes to dependencies, to documentation. Eevee has this is actually a bug fix. So someone reported that this cool effect when using Eevee or the preview mode, yeah, this wasn't, it was taking a while to update the point clouds. There was a workaround for this. Now point clouds are officially part of Blender, so this has been fixed, and the volumetric or point cloud now support volumetrics properly in Eevee. Is this part of, no, this is part of main only, actually, not 4.5 yet, or maybe it will. Next, so edit mesh, a few changes, bunch of fixes. Look at that. Our Blender is getting more stable by the minute. Also, many bugs are introduced by the minute, but hey, let's see. Next. Oops. Ghosts. There is one change in, oh, there's a big one. Hey, Linux users. Ghost Wayland. So basic touch screen support on Wayland, on Linux. So nice. Well, it's a fix actually, but hey, welcome. Wow, nice. Touchscreen support on Linux system running Wayland Compositor. Super nice. Nice. We need more Wayland developers, especially now with the touchscreen support. So it could work even better in on Linux, on tablets, on graphic tablets, non-graphic tablets. Next, in the geometry node section, we have many changes on closures and bundles because they're about to come out of experimental, but they're not yet. So I'm not going to talk about them now. Although if you've been using them, just keep an eye on these changes because yeah, there are, the link is again in the BlenderToday thread, but the colors change, the sockets change, the way the sync button shows up is now in the node. There are many changes, so have a look. Next, initial, very basic support for lists in Blender. Oh my gosh, we don't have new socket types, list and data types. very often. So there's a new structure type and socket shape for lists, which means you can now have a list, make a list of things, make a list of floats with a integer for the count and then values, right? And so you can have all of the same type, or actually a field. So you can have as many types as you want. Then you have another node to get this list item, and then you have another node. So this introduces 3 nodes. The last one being list length, which gets a list and gives you the length. So basically counts them. That's good to see. Nice. So very basic support. 3 new nodes. Nice. I wonder what people will be making with this. Next, this is just an aesthetic change. The wCloud user, community user, has made it so some nodes are more inlined. This is how they used to be, where the in and out sockets are pretty far from each other, and they shouldn't have to be. So now they are inlined. Super nice. Compact UI, it makes sense. Same name coming in and out, same data type, same everything. So no need to explicitly have different sockets at different heights for those. Nice. And then the socket name based on node category and custom component. So nice. Yeah. So when you have a different type, the socket name was different. So it was always geometry, and now for shade smooth is a mesh because it only supports meshes, and these nodes only support curves. So it makes sense that I say curve and not geometry. It's a little quality of life improvement that developers always try to add, but sometimes it slips through. So super nice to see. Just a little hint on what kind of type it's supported. Although if you leave the mouse over the sockets, you will see a tooltip telling you which node types are, or which socket types are supported. So that's another hint there. Move more menu items, more menu inputs to sockets. So some of the, okay, there's a huge image. Oh yeah, now because yeah, it's true. We now have the menu socket type. So things that are usually exposed as menus, now they are exposed as sockets. This means that the UI, not the AI, the UI of these nodes has changed a lot, because these options, the menus, used to be all the way to the top before the content of the node. So now this has changed and moves them below, which I'm not sure about, because I don't know, it looks a bit weird. But I mean, I guess it makes sense. It just looks a bit weird, right? Like in this case, would it make sense to have the amount before or not? Well, only if the options in the menu affect what is underneath. Otherwise, not. So that's a good reason too. And I know Jack is a big fan of UI. So no, here makes sense. Here is even better, because you have the order. String starts with key. String ends with key, and the same for contains. Okay, yeah, they paid attention to it. Oh wow, we have even grid. So many new socket types in Blender 5. Nice. Okay, next. Increase parallelism on geometry proximity node. So this is a bug report that mentioned that Blender crashes when the modifier dependency cycle is detected. Well, I think it wasn't just crashing. It was like just taking too long to compute. This has been fixed, and now the test file on that it was reported went from 8 frames per second to 20 frames per second. So performance improvements. Nice, good to see, good to see. I hope this one makes it into Blender 4.5 if that makes sense, if this is part of if this can be included. I'm not sure if this could be applied, but would be nice. There were somebody was mentioning at the beginning of the stream that 4.5 it feels slower than before, than 4.4, 4.3. Please report those changes because they are being addressed. Actually, there was a mention today in the chat, in the developers chat, about a change that part of the improvement could be moved to 4.5 to improve the performance, but the full performance improvement could be done only on 5. So some things can be ported back to improve performance. So always, if you find any difference in speed, if Blender is slower, please report it because those are called regressions and they have to be addressed. They have to be mentioned. Next, geometry nodes. Use standard node with okay, this is just a blender.community, a right click select, change the, yeah, somebody mentioned on right click select that every node, the neighbors node and some other ones, were of the same width except the face neighbors. It was just slightly wider and that has been fixed. So you see, your right click select posts get, they are seen and they have been changed. Actually, there was a change that shouldn't have happened. I basically removing one line of code fixed it. Okay, next. Geometry. We're done with geometry now. It's now time for Grease Pencil. In Grease Pencil, there is only one change, which makes it, it's a visual change. Use curve overlay for Bezier handles. So the overlay, well, basically the same options that are for curves. This makes it so Grease Pencil uses the same colors and shaders as the curve objects. So they're more unified because since Blender 4.3, Grease Pencil uses curves internally since Grease Pencil 3. So it makes sense that they look the same and they have similar tools. Let's move into Hydra, handle dome light rotation. This refactors the code for the world to dome light to be shared between USD and Hydra and makes them use the same code underneath. And one small behavior is that the missing image files now render black, matching Eevee and cycles more closely. That should be pink though. But yeah, now at least this is unified. Okay, big one for OBJ users and Rhino users and anything that has to do with nerves, because OBJ import now supports nerves, both Blender and the external variants of nerves. The export is also cleaner, with better results importing in Rhino. So when you export your nerves from Blender to Rhino, I don't know why would you do that? Isn't it the other way around? That Rhino is amazing at nerves. And anyways, now you can, and the results should be cleaner. Cool. Then internal support for exporting the new curves type and test covering several number of related cases. Cool, nice. I wonder is this person from Rhino or just a big fan? Nice. Committed by Aras. Thank you. Yeah, always welcome to have these changes. It's just that nice. Nerves. Okay, time to make the screen, the font size bigger. What else? We have some Linux changes, shows library stuff, Mac OS as well, Mac formats, modeling. Okay, so we at the beginning I mentioned there are no changes related to animation. However, there was one, but it was about shape keys. And I don't know, what do you think is the category for shape keys? Is it modeling? Is it animation? Or it's its own thing, shape keys? Because developers added one in animation and then 3 in modeling, all related to shape keys. So let's talk about shape keys. The changes this week related to shape keys are super nice. One, long-standing issue. Shape keys by default used to have a value of 0. So make a new shape key, edit it, you wouldn't see anything. Like, what the heck? I don't know if you remember, but yeah, you probably remember if you're familiar with shape keys. So I have this amazing cube here, and I will create a new shape key, and the value will be 0 by default. So I would go in, edit it, make it super nice, my best shape key ever, go back into object mode, and you wouldn't see anything. What kind of... Well, that's very Blender, right? But was very Blender, because now the default is 1. So you go in and out, and now you see what you get. Isn't that nice? Thank you, Nika and Sivren and everyone from the animation module for working on it. Actually, you would think this is a small value for defaults and started like that, but then it went into a discussion of long, I come back and forth, tests, what happens with the Python API when you add a new shape key. It's not an easy change. You would think it's just a value that you just change somewhere, but no. It is, it takes a lot of work and many people involved in many areas, from the modeling module, animation. So super nice to have this finally done. And you get to appreciate a bit of the amount of work that goes behind it. You know what else is work? Well, when Sivren made a new operator for make bases. This is an operator that makes the active shape key turn into the bases, the one that you start with, the top one, topmost one. So super nice. It's a new option called make bases here in the menu. There are some changes coming to this menu in particular, though. So it might look a bit different when you have a look at it in a few days or weeks. In the final version, will definitely look different. Next. Basically, it's changing for the better, just saying. The idea is to unify this, the names, because sometimes it's a bit confusing. Join a shape update from objects. These two are very similar, and they're being grouped in a better way. Add copy to selected to shape keys. This is amazing. So is this part of this release or last time? Well, I don't know if you know, but shape keys, and basically any of these 3 views, like UI lists, now support multi-select. You can now select multiple. You can't click and drag though, box select, not yet. But hey, you can drag a shape key and you can select them. And now you can also hold Alt and change the value to all the items at once. Not only this, but any of these options. So this is a major change. So if you only change one, it just works like in Blender. You just change the active one. And if you hold Alt, it would apply to all of the other ones. So cool. This will make life so much easier. So, okay, what else should we do here? So maybe we can do like select all. A for select all. There's a new shape key context menu that is coming soon. So far, you probably won't see it because it is only for developers, but they are coming. There are things coming here. Next, mirror support for the hide operator. Okay, this is a real modeling feature. This is a improvement done on the PR is really badly named, but basically when you have symmetry on and you hide one side of the mesh, now it supports hiding the other side of the mesh. So nice. Cool. Next, let's go into the nodes. So these are changes that apply to the node editor in general. The first one is, super nice also. Quality of life improvement by Ilya, that you need to see it to believe it. Have you ever run into this kind of issues where you have the node editor down here, you add a node from a menu that happens to be outside of the bounds of the node editor. So if you add a node here, it will be somewhere in this space, but up here. So you wouldn't see it the moment you add it. Not anymore. Now when you add it, it will position it at the topmost place where your mouse is. So your mouse is still here because it is bad practice to move the user's cursor out of to somewhere else without their consent. You shouldn't do that. It's bad practice. So in Blender, we try not to do that and keep the mouse over here, place a node down here, and basically use that offset. So it's a bit more, more reliable where you will place it. So super nice. And it seems like I'm going to the next world or the previous one. Next. Let's see. Oh my gosh, this is a small step for humanity, a giant step for shader, for the shader editor. Not in materials yet. I wish we're almost there, but for the world editor. Remember that very useful option called use nodes? So no one ever. The use nodes option it's a legacy option from back in the days where having a single node would make Blender slightly slower when you had to calculate. So basically there was an option to disable the node. It was added back in 2005 when nodes were implemented, and it's still here in 2025. Not anymore. It's actually going away. It's been removed from the Compositor. It's been removed last week from the world, and it will be removed from materials soon. So yay. No longer one extra step that you have to think about when setting up your scene. Awesome. Awesome. Small thing, but yeah. Gee, it gets on the way. Next. Let's see. Open Subdiv. Switch away from GLSL on Apple. Okay. This change is a iOS feature, actually. Well, it is not. It is a regular Apple feature for Open Subdiv. Basically, it will try to use GPU subdivisions when possible. But the immediate advantage of this change is that now iOS devices, so a phone, a tablet, will support GPU subdivision. Yay. Before it wouldn't even compile. Blender would fail to compile. There were many issues. So yay. Good to see. Then, okay. Oh, I missed this one from the highlights. Physics. What? It doesn't have the thing. I missed it when I was going through them. Change default shape for bubble and foam particles to increase visibility. Oh, wow. There were 4 reports related to the visibility of really old one is even from 2020 regarding the visibility of particles. Okay, so the default shape has been changed. Nice. To draw as a circle for bubbles and as a cross for foam. Nice. Just a very small thing, but just knowing that Bartos is looking after the physics code in Blender just gives me a little hope. Nice. Okay, next, now let's really go over the refactors. Render. Oh, another. So many life-changing as a Blender user, long-standing changes this week. Why? Well, because Blender now allows you to choose a media type. What does it mean? Well, an option where you can easily tell Blender if you want image or video, or even multi-layer images. I know this sounds weird, but in Blender, before you will have to choose the format, and a video, you will have to look for FFmpeg video, which is the least user-friendly thing. I know if you know what FFmpeg is, but most people don't know. They just want to have a video or an image. Okay, so this is what's added now. Things are a bit more user-friendly now. There is a option called media type, which allows you to choose between image, multi-layer EXR or video. Yeah, you would argue a multi-layer EXR is a kind of image, but this is to make it also more explicit, that you can have multi-layer and it wouldn't affect, because you can have multiple options only for this this type. So super nice, super welcome. Next, shaders. Change the default black body temperature to 6500 Kelvin. Okay, so the default, whoops, the default, what was the default before? 1500, that's cold. No, wait, the other way around. I always mix them up. 6500, okay, something a bit more realistic. Yeah, just so you don't turn your lights red just because you added a black body node. Next. Shape keys. This is the shape key section because it has its own. Yes, okay. So we have a modeling, animation, and shape key. Where do they go? Okay, next. Similar to this other PR, move multiple selected items. So now you can select multiple items, what I just showed you before, and now you can move them all at once. All move to top or move to bottom. Have you noticed though, when you do move to top, it doesn't move them to the top because the basis one has to stay on the top. So in that case, it will move them to the second place. There is a change coming. Actually, the label will change. It wouldn't be move to top. It will be called move after basis, and the bottom one will be called move to last, because it's not top bottom. It's not like it's first or last. It's a list. So in this case will be changed. Then let's make basis key also update the relative to fields. Nice. So when a shape key is made with a new basis, it also updates the relative to option. Next, expand the tooltips of make basis key operator. So it used to be, yeah, okay, it's now more descriptive. Nice. Make the shape key the new basis key, effectively applying it to the mesh. Note that this applies the shape key at its 100% value. Blender being helpful. Thank you, Sivren. Next, let's talk about the user interface, the UI. The one and only Leon keeps making Blender pixel perfect. Now with the consistency of the sockets. The sockets, they were really all over the place. The outlines colors didn't match between the actual socket and the ones in the group sockets, or even the ones for shaders. For example, the options in the materials didn't match the color, the highlight colors, everywhere else. So now they do. Now, why would I show you? Actually, it just looks as expected. Same color, same color. So yay, thank you, Leon. The default height of the bookmark UI list is now slightly larger, so it doesn't look out of place. Now it looks, when there is a list, it is a bit bigger, and then when there is room, it fits. Next, ARM Windows GL welcome driver message change. So now it has a bit more, it's a bit of a better description of what's going on when using Qualcomm drivers that are too old. The warning also has been updated. These ones that you get when running Blender on Windows on ARM, you will get nicer messages. Find the latest drivers even. How helpful is that? The option HDRI preview size has been renamed to reference sphere size, which is it should have been changed before, because this name is already changed in the overlay settings. Then this is a fix for a wobbly UI. When resizing the editor, the video sequence editor, the text would vibe, like, I don't know, wobble for some reason. That has been fixed now, thanks to Harley. The percentage display when using the old the Window Manager Progress API, Python API, it was really weird. It would work. If something was like, in this case, 75.23%, it would put the both numbers stacked. So it would be 75, 23. So hard to see what was going on. And now it does. Now it shows properly if supported. The full screen area operator now hides the content selectively. So instead of always hiding it, we will now hide it if you want it to be hidden. So it will change the setting itself. Before it would force some options to be hidden, now it actually hides a property, which is much more user-friendly. This maximize area or focus or full screen area has been renamed to focus mode. So now it's same behavior, same shortcut, just the name has changed to focus. So you can focus on what you're working on. It's a bit, because it's a bit more than full screen, right? It hides settings. It's not just expanding the UI, it's also hiding some things to you can work more focused. Next, the status bar has better display for the mesh shear option with the settings and the Boolean options that you can toggle on and off, and the same for the shrink fatten operator. These settings now you can press S for the even thickness. The operator values is shown there. So much nicer. Thank you, Harley. Sorry for not reviewing this when it was merged. I was in the middle of the release. Okay, next. Fade in some area maintenance overlays. So this is just a little eye candy to make the change like this when you're resizing or changing the layouts on your areas, to fade it in and out so they're a bit more subtle. They're not like so jarring when they, especially when you have big areas that you're splitting. It was a bit too much. Just a little hint. The fly mode when using end off, some of these settings are not available, so they are now gonna be grayed out if you have the a navigation mode that is not compatible with that one. Just another quality of life improvement to tell you that something is not available at that time. Another small quality of life improvement is that the the press drag event is basically just drag. You can't drag without clicking, so it would be confusing to have the word there. Small thing again by yeah. Next, oh, this one so nice by Damian. He went over all the running jobs, the operations, like baking lighting, baking line art, generating studio light, well, multi-res baking, all these messages that you get as reports or in the terminal everywhere in Blender. Basically, they are all actions that are currently happening. They're ongoing actions. So, and they were all over the place. So now they are all unified. It's always going to be the action and the gerundio, and then the ellipsis. So you know that it's something that is going on. Like some of them were all over the place. Some of them were like calculate simulation, like if it was an action that you would have to take. Now it tells you that it's a process. So nice, and so much work, like going through all this. It's just loading previews, strip previews. What does it even mean? Generating strip previews. So nice. So Damian, thank you so much. Next, BLF, use custom not defined. Yeah. So when there is no a font available or for the characters that you're using, Blender will not try to fall back to whatever is closest and maybe you wouldn't even notice what's going on, which kind of hid what was happening at the time. So the font would look, in some cases, could look very similar to that it is working, but it's not working. So now it just shows you the character, so you can clearly see there is something going on with your font. It doesn't support all the characters that you are trying to display. Next, a bit more of eye candy and a bit of a to help you to see what is going on. So we don't have the before and after. No, we don't have a before and after. So basically the change is this fade, or maybe I have 4.5 here. So before there was a separator line between the content and the limits of the content. So if I have this here and I don't have enough content here, you will see like you could end here and you would really easily tell that there is more content behind here. So you have layout, modeling, and then the content. So it looks like you only have 2 workspaces. Well, not anymore. Now the gradient shows up. If needed, you will show a gradient. So it's a little hint that there is something more behind there. This uses the background color of the top bar, so it blends with any theme. Small thing. The thread, this is a particular thread that actually went all over the top. So this was another experiment to show this. I kind of like this one. I would probably leave it for all tabs, not for everywhere, because at some point, if you look at this thread, it was added to the header, which I think the headers should have some kind of hint. I think in some cases, what we could do, though, instead of having the gradients, we could show a line, a divider line on below the header, because it is important to show, well, we have the scroll bar, but it is important to show that there is content there, that the UI doesn't end there, because right now it's not super clear. Like if you're not paying attention to where the sidebar is, you may think the scroll bar is, you may think that the UI ends here, for example, right? And it's not. So maybe Blender could show that PR had a gradient here, but that didn't make it in, but it could show a line at least. What do you think? If you keep going, you will see that there were gradients everywhere, even in the it looks super nice. I actually like this. In the outliner, or in some areas, like this is what the outliner. So you see, like, so good, so nice. Then you scroll it out and then it's not there. And then you scroll in, it will fade in even. So, but yeah, the thing is, there is a problem. When you have too many gradients, it looks like there's so many layers of things going on. You have this gradient here to tell you that there's content out of the view for the header. You have this content is out of the way. So where do you draw the line? There was even at some point a gradient in the corners of the editor when you get to show you that there is more content there. So I don't know. I kind of liked it, and at some point I even approved it, but there was some back and forth, and then at the end we decided to go with this, just the top bar, and try to don't overuse it. But I still would like to have it in some places, so maybe we could have a rule for it. We could say every tab layout will support it. So this means the top and the properties bar, maybe. Yeah, we need some, maybe the headers. The header is also a good one, because sometimes you don't know that there is not much more content, right? Like here, if in the header, if I end here, you wouldn't know that there is more content to the right, right? But there is. So maybe we could, but we need some proper design where to use it. The header needs it. Okay. Please overuse it, says Pedro. Okay. I'm with you. No, we shouldn't overuse it. But I hope gradients won't make Blender slow. No, Blender is it's OpenGL, like it's just OpenGL. Well, it's Vulkan. No, it's all our custom drawings. Gradients are not slower than anything else, any other drawing in this case. It's like a game. Okay, next. Icons for playhead snapping. Yep, this feature that was part of Blender 4.5, the playhead snapping, now it's a bit more compact. It has an icon that you can toggle on and off without having to toggle to open the popover. So a little quality of life improvement right there. It's similar to the other snapping icon, but it's supposed to mean the the playhead. Something like that. There were some options, some design options there for the playhead. I think at some point I would like to propose a redesign for the playhead in Blender. The playhead is this thing, the frame indicator. I think it could be a bit more like pointy down here, or like some other shape that makes it more distinct, because that way we could have icons that refer to this, and it's also more in line with pretty much every other application that has a timeline. They have that specific shape, just a few pixels, and it would make it a bit more recognizable. Let's see. Replace construction with long form. Oh, this is from today actually. You wouldn't see it in yesterday's build. You will see it tomorrow because it's just landed a few hours ago, and it's a big one, so that's why it's taking time to open. In the meantime, I can let you know that you can now rename items in 3 views like this. UI lists, the new ones, the one for shape keys, light linking, bone collections, etc., by pressing F2. So in the same way, this is additionally to the double click. Nothing has changed in that regard. Nice, small quality of life improvement. And the change that I just mentioned before, it's about unifying the long form, well, unifying the text, how just text works in English in Blender, which tries to avoid construction. So cannot should be written cannot instead of can't, aren't, doesn't, shouldn't. And yeah, that's a big change also by Damian. So thank you, Damian. So much work. This unifies language. It's better for accessibility as well. You don't have this apostrophe, which can also look weird sometimes. All right, that is all for user interface changes. Let's see USD. There's 2 changes, but one that is more worth mentioning, which is the allow Unicode option is now on by default for the exporter, and you need to keep that in mind when exporting. Then next there are utilities. Wow, that's new. Utilities, yes. Actually, this one I'm not sure if this is part of like if I go to Builder and I download Blender Alpha, I wonder if this is there or not, because basically there are new utility changes, utility options to start up Blender via the command line. No, not the command line, sorry. Yeah, I think it opens a terminal or not. Basically, it makes it easier for when you're reporting a bug and trying to give feedback to run Blender with either Vulkan or OpenGL or factory startup Vulkan, just to debug what's going on. So yeah, and this should be here, right? I wonder if it's even there. So this is, yeah, Blender now ships with this Vulkan startup, Oculus even. Oculus. You can run Blender Oculus command. Okay. Next. Video sequence editor. The video sequence editor has a bunch of changes this week. It has 4 of them. One of them is a better default values for the newly added Gaussian blur effect. The previous values did not do any blurring at all. Since blur sizes were set to 0, make them default to 9 pixel size blur, which is similar to the amount of blur the glow effect does by default. Which reminds me also that I think this also applies to the blur node, no? Blur? Yeah, by default, blur is size 0, so it doesn't do any blurring. Should it do any kind of blurring by default? Should we unify this? Because it's kind of weird. You add a node and doesn't do anything. We could use that as a guideline. Anything you add should do something. Next, clamp retiming keys header values and snap drawing. The retiming keys are now clamped as well, and the drawing as well. Nice. So they don't go out of the region of your transform. Nice. Next. Oh, ADAS and performance. That is always good news. That's a good combination. So ADAS made it so the histogram calculation on this test on a Ryzen 5950X on Windows on a 4K resolution image with just the default color management settings went for a PNG image from almost 4 milliseconds to 0.9 milliseconds. So almost 1. So from 4 to 1. And the EXR one is even more impressive. It went for 41. So an HDR histogram will take 41 milliseconds to calculate, to update, and now 6 milliseconds. Not bad. With some color space change, with the display color space, is slightly different, but also take from 64 milliseconds to 10 milliseconds. The PNG went through from 25 to 11 milliseconds. Not bad. That's super nice. Faster histogram. Almost instant. Nice. And last change, the last change is from Ramon, who implemented deleting keyframes support from the preview. It makes it easier to delete strip keyframes from the preview. It works similarly to the 3D viewport and also works with keying sets. Pressing Alt-I deletes a keyframe on the current frame of the selected strips. When a key set is active, it only deletes the keyframes of the selected key set. That's so nice. Thank you, Ramon. The last change this week is related to Vulkan, which is a reminder about the drivers version on Qualcomm, so on Windows on ARM. This has been informed by Qualcomm that the public version should be functional, and this public version is 5.12.827.0. Nice. Okay, that is all that is new in Blender. Let's see what is new in the which questions we have this week. So I'm gonna go full screen. 7 questions so far, so let's have a mate. If I have the last one, good timing. Messi. First question by Crank. Hi, I got a request. Can we have a proper hair shader for Eevee, like in Cycles? Pretty please. Yes, I wish that. I repeatedly said that to the developers. The developer that coded that implemented the Cycles shader, the Cycles hair shader, the one shader, happens to sit across in the same room as the developer for Eevee. So maybe that will happen. Only recently I think this year, they only sit in the same room. But I have hopes that Eevee and Cycles would get together for a nice shader that looks a bit more similar across the board. Next. Let's see. Lapis C says, amazing show today. You mentioned about how the compositor is being prepared to be more portable. Things like texture processing. Yes, absolutely groundbreaking news, and I'm beyond excited. Same here. I think the Blender would take off after that. I mean, it is been taking off for a while, but I think the compositor will take off. As in, Blender will be used for many more things that we can't even think of today. One question is, as we generate more images, should the format of the image not be addressed better? Right now, we can choose between a half a float and a full float, RGBA. Extremely common use cases such as mask are not well supported by this. A proper image format would be an 8-bit single channel texture, R8 for the nerds. I'm wondering, is there any word on properly supporting more GPU friendlies and just memory friendly image formats? That's a really good question. I actually haven't thought about that. I'm sure the developers have thought about that, but I haven't seen any like task or mention of it. So yeah, that's maybe we could ask for that in the chat, in the developers chat. Just question. Maybe there is a task already. Next. Mohamed said, hi Pablo, I'm currently watching the live stream. I also watched the previous one. It's really amazing to see the compositor getting the kind of treatment geometry nodes received. I don't have anything else to say. I'm really happy that the compositor is finally getting the love it deserves. Same here. I've been a user of the compositor since it was added back in 2005. I've been big fan. Just what you can do with the compositor is just amazing, especially more recently. And that is thanks to many developers working full-time. There is Omar, Miguel, and well, everyone that works on the module, right? Like we have Habib, we have Clement for GPU staff, Yorun. It is really only possible thanks to the Blender Development Fund, people that are making a living out of Blender. So your contributions are welcome. 7,500. Nice. Oh, by the way, we're considering what many of you requested in the survey this year about having a way as a when you donate to say, okay, I want to donate towards Blender for iPad, towards texture painting, towards performance, towards anything, Blender for Android, Blender for, yeah. So we're thinking about ways to do that. So keep an eye on. It won't happen anytime soon though. I think the team is now going to SIGGRAPH next week. If you're around, by the way, there is an article on blender.org where you can read more about Blender at SIGGRAPH 2025, the events that will take place as well. So yeah. Oh, by the way, I don't know if I can mention it, but there are plans for a mini Blender conference Asia to take place, as far as I know, in Shenzhen in China. But I don't know if I can share the news actually. I know that the website is up somewhere. Keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on socials. So when it gets announced. But it's similar to the Beacon LA. So it's not the Blender conference. It is a Blender conference, but it's just not Blender. The official one is Amsterdam, and then there are other ones. But there might be people from the Blender team there. I'm myself thinking of going actually there. I haven't only been to Beijing, and I loved it. So next. Watching it ramp up like this gives me a lot of hope what's coming on the Compositor. And then a feature request. Per clip compositing node system in the video sequence editor. Oh yeah, this basically, it's basically this. So assets, Imagine, like, the future is so, I mean, the future is all the time, right? But things like this, like with the moment you have a assets that you can drag and drop into a strip. It's a well, it's so cool, so cool. Like all the pieces are coming together, right? Like the viewport compositing, like the compositor being the viewport, all GPU, Vulkan, the sequencer, like it all happens. It's all coming together. So with Blender, it's always like there's just this thing like around the corner, but I think we're getting there. Okay, sorry, next. Oi, Pablo says snap, but two things. Blender handling for back-facing normals, the black spots from glossy normals, isn't the best, but there is no physically correct way of doing it. Should I add more methods to it? To do it. They're all different speeds and appearances. Also, I almost had a heart attack when you mentioned the removal of map value. It's not map range in any case. No, map range, still there. Map value has been removed, but only to be replaced by map range and other nodes. In any case, I'm still trying to decide if I add a general node to generate a selectable curves between two values, if I just add a dozen of formulas to the smoothing options in the already loaded map range node, or to make a totally separate node based on map range. Good question. I mean, I think you can prototype it in the map range node, right? So you don't have to make all the boilerplate for a new node. And then in the worst case, I can make a work in progress PR, and in that case, just prototype it, the options there, which is the gist of it, and then try it out in another node if needed. But you can prototype it there because it takes a lot of boilerplate to make a new node, the file, the CMake, the easier it gets to get to the point, the better. Slow Kid says, Hola Pablo, I wanted to get your opinion on something. I know there is a plan to split the math node into individual operation nodes. I feel this might not be the best approach. I am not familiar with this actually. As someone not confident with math, the current dropdown helps me a lot in exploring and understanding the operations by trying them out. Yeah, same here. To me, math, it's similar to blending modes. Like when you just go between overlay, lighten, darken, add, multiply, just go through them and see which one fits. The same here. And at the end of the day, it's the same thing, because when you just search for it and select it, what's different? Is it because they can optimize them that way? But that could happen on execution, right? You just find the nodes and just where did you read about that? Share a link. But yeah, I can find by scrolling through them. Same here. Splitting into nodes will mean needing to go into the right operation, making trial and error slower. Yes, absolutely. I agree with you. Slow Kid is a match username matches. Let's see. Hi, Pablo. After all these years, Pascal says, can you tell us what was the reason for Pablo Dobarro to leave? And if there is a possibility for him to come back one day to Blender development. We had so much progress when he was around, I could only imagine how much more progress sculpting, painting, and retopo would have been today. It feels like a punch in the gut that we lost such a great developer. Thanks. Yeah, I'm with you. It's unfortunate that we lost that developer. I think Pablo was of great help. He had great ideas in mind. Some of them are even being implemented slowly based on the work he did, on research he did in the past. So that's something that has a great legacy now in Blender. Many of the ideas he had were, I think, very advanced at the time. This was around COVID, right? Like 2020, 2021, I think. I remember being on the live streams that we did back then, and some of the ideas were pretty revolutionary for Blender, and there was some backlash on the community and from development side as well. Some of it was also maybe not in line with some of the of Blender changes. I think there was like the idea that sculpt would have to be for low resolution. Some people in the community didn't like it. Or like there will be two viewports. I don't remember exactly which one was. I think it's in the code blog. But I don't think that was the reason to leave. I think Pablo Navarro wanted to have much more than what Blender could offer at the moment, because in a few years later, a few months later, he came up with his own application, his own app for sculpting with really innovative ways of sculpting and paradigms in the way you deal with meshes. And I think someone with his talent, maybe not over with open source, with maybe with Blender, or maybe in the future, but a developer like him has way more freedom making his own stuff. It's something like Ton, right? Like if Ton would have contributed to another project, maybe it would have been different than if he just went ahead and did his own thing. And then it's the reason why we're all here, right? I think Pablo Navarro has that kind of brilliant mind that works best when he's on his own, like doing his own things. And maybe one day we get him back. He's super young, he's like in his 20s or something. So why not? I don't see why not. I hope. Let's see. Hello, hope you're having a great day. 2 questions if you don't mind. 1, I miss the old days when the upcoming big versions of Blender had a clear roadmap and excitement. I know the jump to Blender 5 won't be as exciting as 2.7.9, 2.8, but what's the plan for 5.0? Not much buzz around. Question 2 about the facial ring. Okay, so, well, the thing is, the version numbers have changed because we all know that the jumps between versions, every 2 years there is a new bigger version, and that's why we're already in Blender 5 when 2 to 3 took 20 years. But you have to have these changes if you want to keep the software like light, alive, keep moving forward, being able to support more newer changes, more newer technology, but at the same time support older ones. That's why the LTS support is so important. Many people are relying on LTS releases for 2 years, and every year there is a new LTS, and every cycle has 2 LTS releases at the beginning ish in the 4.2 or 5.2, and then at the end, which is the one we are in now for 5.2 4.5. I think we reached a point where it makes sense, and it's a good balance of super new changes like Blender 5 and not so much. Okay, so there about the buzz. There is not much buzz in 5.0. Do you really think? Like Vulkan will be the default. That's a huge amount. That's a lot. Blender, well, for pipelines, maybe for the regular user is not so big, but Blender supports bigger files, more data, bigger data blocks inside, longer data block names. A lot of breaking changes are happening inside that make 5 a big jump in terms of for pipeline. On top of that, there will be online assets. I think that will be huge, not for 5.0, but for coming ones. For 5.2 for sure. Famous last words. But yeah, 5.2, I think it's gonna be a good jump in terms of Blender taking a step into being more easy to use thanks to online assets, Vulkan, so better support for graphics cards, better performance. Nothing is gonna be as big as 2.7.9 to 2.8, and there is no need for that. There was a big need for a UI change in 2.7.9 to 2.8. We can all agree that 2.7.9, even though it was fast, was great. It was my favorite software at the time, but it needed a bit of a right click select to left click select to get more users on board. It also needed a bit of a facelift to be a bit more modern, unifying the UI, making it more so add-ons and regular UIs look a bit more integrated. There will never be another 2.7.9 to 2.8, but there is no need for that, I think. We don't have to change the UI every time. That's the whole point. I don't know if I said it, if I explained it or not. Anyways, GG, that was the last question. Oh no, wait, you have another question. So I'm excited about the facial rigging project. Okay, wait, 5.0. Blender support for iPad. That for tablets in general, that's kind of a big deal. Like 5.2 might be available, like the next LTS release might be available already for Android, for iPad, for iPhone, for I think there are good reasons to be excited about the 5.x series. Let's see. I'm excited about the facial rigging project. Is it still a work in progress? And well, it will be finished alongside the course. That what you're talking about is the studio website on projects Storm. This is Storm projects. There are production logs, and you can see here the progress. You can see what's going on. I think Rick was on holidays recently. He's back. I've seen him this week. So there will be updates, and you can follow the progress in here at the production logs of the studio website. So I'm gonna reply to this and call it a day. Oops, because it's 7 o'clock. So that's a good moment to wrap it up. All right, how's the chat going? Everything okay? 5.0 is big on the inside. Big on the inside. Yeah, it is big on the inside, more than the outside, right? Like, to me, it's a kind of a big jump in that regard. Collections of Grease Pencil were huge in 2.8. I know. That's kind of huge. That is kind of huge. 5.0, 5.3 is going to be wild one. Why? Like, closures and bundles. That would be 5.0. That is huge. Imagine being able to have repeat zones in shaders. Like, it's there is a lot to be excited about. We need to do more what? Hype the community more, maybe have more project oriented. Well, also you can go to this. We publish every year the list of projects to work on for this year, and this will apply there, right? So Vulkan is apply, UV sync, like better UV stuff, assets, built-in asset, hair dynamics, project setup. Well, that might not be 5.0. Shape keys improvements, there, remote asset libraries, layer, sculpt, well, this hasn't started yet. MIP maps might make it in 5.0 or 5.1. So story tools, also 5.0 or 5.1. There are so many reasons to be excited about Blender 5. It's just that we're not good at selling it. Oh, Folk is in the chat. Folk, is story tools coming to 5.0 or 5.1? Do you think Blender on iPad will release with 5.0? No, I don't think so, because there is so much work. We don't even know how distribution is going to happen. We just shared how you can compile it on your iPhone or your iPad, but there's still no plans on the distribution. That's later. People, first make the software great and then think how to distribute it later. The worst case scenario, you will have to compile it yourself, or we will give you all the instructions to get it running yourself. That's there are many other things to think about at the moment. Okay, it's not the UI. The UI is fine. There is way too much focus on the UI. By whom? I mean, the UI module is working on the UI, but the rest is, and a good UI, it's important to have. Like today, we've seen changes in consistency in the text, in the way we communicate, in reports. Like it all adds up. It's just the small things. It's hard to justify sometimes so many small changes, but if you see them all together, they really help. Okay, let's continue. No, okay, continue. Let's the next week. Let's continue next week. All right. So when is the next episode gonna be? On the 19th. Oh, that week we have a workshop here. But I should still do Blender today, right? I should still do it. We're gonna have a workshop here at the Blender HQ about Blender on mobile devices. So yes, I will do a Blender today, I think, on that Tuesday, the 19th of August. And then the next one, I think I'm on holiday. No, actually, I'm not on holiday. You're lucky. Yeah, my holiday just happens to be on the exact week of of that I'm, yeah, I have 1 week holiday, exact week where Blender today is not happening. So you're lucky. If you like watching this too. If you don't like watching it, I will see you on, you can see these updates on the code blog, on the development dev talk forums, and otherwise I will see you again in 2 weeks time for another episode of Blender Today Live. How may I not listen to it? Bye.